This game was out of hand by the first, I guess you'd say like 3-4 drives. After the fumble kickoff, it was sort of just like a formality at that point. The Seahawks kind of just stomped all over them.
Let's get to the big news that just happened, though, before we get into the games, and then we'll get to this game at the end when it goes final. But Jayden Daniels, if you saw it, no explanation seems necessary. That elbow went the wrong way on that run, and I couldn't believe it. We were here in me and producer Stryker were here in like the StreamYard green room before watching the game off to the side, and as he pulls that, I'm like, great, let's subject Jayden Daniels to more hits in the fourth quarter of a meaningless game. And lo and behold, he doesn't get up off the ground. Elbow's going the wrong way, and that's more than likely it for his season and the Commanders at this point.
It's horrible, especially when you look at a team and you look at a player like Jayden Daniels, who has suffered through so many injuries this season. The Commanders have really been bitten by the injury bug on the offensive side of the ball. And the fact that this happens on a primetime game against the Seahawks at FedEx Field, I know a lot of Commanders fans are getting flashbacks to the RG3 injury. So it's just unfortunate for a lot of them, but it's just unfortunate for the NFL that a player so promising as Jayden Daniels is going to be potentially out for the season in what is a lost season for the Commanders at this point.
Yeah, the NFL has been hurting with injuries, and the timing of them, specifically at the quarterback position, that's going to mark. I think we're up to double digits now in terms of starting back non-week one starters that have started games for teams around the NFL. Cowboys and the Commanders now, they have the Lions next week. That was supposed to be a blockbuster game. And here we are, probably Marcus Mariota going to be starting that one. 38-14, the Seahawks beat down the Commanders on the road in Washington. What was your number, JP?
My number for this game was, at some point in this game, Sam Darnold had a .89 EPA per play. That is blistering. He went 16 for 16 for 4 touchdowns in the first half. Like that was an incredible performance by Sam Darnold in the first half. He did finish with a .89 EPA per play, which is unbelievable. They finished with a 78% success rate as a passing offense in this game, which is just like every number about the Seahawks passing offense in this game is hilarious because Sam Darnold did throw an interception in this game. It was one that was kind of a goofy play, but it didn't matter because even on that, they had a 78% success rate, 56% first down rate. Everything was working in this game. And I still think it's so impressive how they are able to just force teams to play base defense against them without having much of a semblance of a run game at all, because that's how they just shredded people. They shredded the Commanders defense just in base defense, and they're always attacking downfield. That's my favorite thing about the Seahawks offense. They're always going after teams downfield. Clint Kubiak is drawing up plays for JSN among the best schemers with their wide receiver ones in the NFL. He had a couple snaps where JSN was in the backfield, sort of running choice routes. There's a beautiful throw he had. Sam Darnold had the JSN on a wheel route out the backfield, which was super cool. The Elijah Arroyo touchdown, just down the seam. Sam Darnold takes like a 5-step drop from under center and just no hesitation rips it. He's playing with such confidence right now that it's really cool to watch. And then really just the Seahawks defense kind of bullied the Commanders for 60 minutes. It just wasn't fair. Like it really wasn't. And I'm just so watching the Seahawks defense is so fun.
Is Sam Darnold, is he going to win an MVP? Is he going to win an MVP this year? He's on pace for over 4,000 yards, over 35 touchdowns, and he's averaging 9.6 yards per attempt. It's like a top 10 figure all time if he finishes the season this way. Could this happen? Is this a possibility?
I think it is a possibility. I think there's a lot of guys he has to contend with, including one in his division that we might end up talking about. But I'm just so impressed with the confidence that he's playing with and the ability to attack downfield with high-level ball placement. the high level accuracy. We always knew that he had the arm strength to make these throws, but now the confidence, the cleanliness with with the way he plays has been so cool to watch as he grew into this guy. And Clint Kubiak is really sort of just, I said that Clint Kubiak is the Remy to Sam Darnold's Linguini, if we're using like Ratatouille. And he's pulling the strings for him and he's making high level throws.
I feel a touch vindicated because I think like 4 weeks into last season, I tweeted out Clint Kubiak should be, a top your head coaching candidates list for next year. Obviously down the stretch, things fell apart. He didn't even get retained on the Saints staff as OC. But what I want, like when they were fully healthy, the way he generated offense for an offense that, like, again, had a really bad offense. Like we're seeing, it's the same offensive line last year as this year. It's actually probably was even worse last year than it is this year. And they still were able to run a high level offense with Derek Carr at quarterback. Derek Carr was going to have his like best season ever if he didn't get hurt last year, statistically. And he's doing with Sam Darnold now. And a rookie wide receiver in Torrey Horton and a number one wide receiver in Jack Smith-Jigba. And like, yeah, that helps to have a guy like Jack Smith-Jigba, but like, this isn't a top 5. This isn't the top 10 offensive line in the NFL. It's a solid, but he's scheming around it. And I do think that there are a lot of teams that should be kicking the doors on Clint Kubiak. If, say, you have a young quarterback that you want to develop, you're, the Tennessee Titans, someone like that. But like, this is a guy who is scheming up modern offense the way that teams need to be doing, like with what they do with multiple tight end sets. Like, he is doing the modern things that are beating these modern defenses.
My one question for the Seahawks offense is, what will the Seahawks do when teams start playing against them the way their actual run game would suggest? They still don't really have a run game. They couldn't run for over 100 yards in this game. They ran for 88 yards as a team. Kenneth Walker had 11 carries for 42 yards. Charbonnet only has 25 yards. I still worry about their inability to run the ball. And when you get to the playoffs and teams are just like, we're not going to play base personnel against you because we know you can't run the ball. So I'm curious what the next step for them will be there. But when you have a quarterback playing as well as they do, and when you have a defense playing as well as they do, it's hard to beat a team like that.
That's a great point. And I actually saw Greg Olson, I think, tweeting about that earlier, saying defenses basically have to just send out by down. What down is it? What's the distance? That's your defensive personnel. You can't be fooled by, what personnel they have on the football field anymore, because basically all of this 2 tight end, 1 fullback, it gives you a slight advantage in the running game, but it's all meant to still give you more favorable matchups in the play action passing game or just the passing game in general. And that's the Seahawks right now. That is them to a T. They dress it up. They have a bunch of big guys on the field, whether it's multiple tight ends, whether it's a fullback out there, but it's all done to get Jack Smith-Jigba one-on-one and for Sam Darnold to average 9.6 yards per attempt in the passing game. That's what it's all for, because they averaged less than 4 per on the ground today, and they still blew the doors off the Washington Commanders. Flip the coin here for a second, though, to the Commanders side of the ball, because you kind of hit this take spot on, and even outside of, obviously, the Jayden Daniels injury, which was horrible at the end of the game. But you basically said that this is when the wheels come off for the Commanders. This is a team that's going to be vastly overmatched. They might get blown out, and this might be curtains for them. And I think even regardless of the Jayden Daniels injury, I think dropping to 3-6 in the manner they did was curtains. Now with the Jayden Daniels injury, with the Lions coming up next week, it's unfortunately over for the 2025 Commanders.
I am so confused by why the Commanders play as much man defense as they do without the bodies to play man defense. They cannot play man coverage. Marshawn Lattimore was awful in this game before he got hurt and left the game. They can't get pass rush. I was actually talking to one of my friends about this, and I was saying that this is the exact same defense from last season. But last season, they could generate negative plays. even when they were getting gashed like they would last season, all it took was one turnover. All it took was one sack. That's all they needed to get the ball back to their offense. But now they can't get pressure, which means they can't get sacks, which means their defense, their secondary is left exposed. They're not creating turnovers as often. And this is what Dan Quinn defenses are at this point. Like even when he was in Dallas, those defenses were incredibly volatile. They would have incredibly high highs and they would also give up 40 points because when those volatile plays, when those chaotic plays aren't working, they don't have any answers. So I don't know where the Commanders go from here. They have the second oldest roster in football. Like all the vets that you expected to work out on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, haven't worked out. So what do you do at this point?
Yeah, to create chaos, sometimes you can do it via scheme, but when you face actually good teams, you need players that can create chaos. They don't have players in their front seven that are capable of that right now. Like Frankie Luvu isn't the same guy he was a couple years ago on the precipice of 30 years old. Bobby Wagner obviously isn't the same guy. And they do a lot of it because they don't have the true edge rushers to go home, to get home one-on-one. So yeah, it just ain't working this year for this Commanders defense. And they just didn't have Superman bailing them out the way they did a year ago.
I actually do think that the Seahawks attacked the Commanders' protection really well in this game. I might like talk about it later, but the Commanders full slide their protection all the time. It is always like they're going to slide four guys, leave the backside guy on an island. And all the Seahawks would do, it happened on the Jayden interception to Ty Okada. They lined up all their numbers on the side that they were full sliding to, and then they brought Devin Witherspoon on the backside. Nobody blocked him. And that felt like that was happening all game. They would just poke holes in all their slide protections, and Jayden Daniels was sort of running for his life before he got hurt. And so with Mike McDonald calling plays the way he is, Leonard Williams was amazing in this game. Devin Witherspoon was all over the field. Ernest Jones went out of this game with an injury, which is something I do think needs to be monitored because those linebackers aren't that good without him. They just, if Ernest Jones is healthy, they got dudes at every level of this defense.
Yeah, the Seahawks are admittedly a house. I don't think there's any team right now that you can for certain say is better than Seattle. There is obviously a stronger tier one in the NFC than I think there is in the AFC, but the Seahawks are in that tier one pretty firmly after this game.